these many students here. I was not very optimistic, to be honest. It's a pleasure for me to introduce you to this event. This is an event of the American Chemical Society. This year, this society is it's the 150th anniversary, and this event is part of the promotion of the journals that they are managing. So this society, it was founded 150 years ago in New York City by 35 chemists, and now is the largest chemical society in the world with 230,000 members. And it has 80 peer-review journals. Something that I want to make clear is that this is not a private company making profit out of scientific publication. It's really a scientific society, right? So here we have today 3 editors of 3 different journals. Actually, we have 2 editors and 1 managing editor. I will give you more details later. They will present their research very quickly. But our goal here today is really to discuss with you, with the students and with early career researchers about the peer review process, the editorial process. Is something controversial and very important for our work. And we think that it's very important that we discuss your doubts and questions, and we all have this conversation from time to time, okay? It's very important. So we are going to start with the first speaker, Professor Elena Galoppini. So Elena Galoppini, she is a distinguished professor at Rutgers University in New Jersey, and she is founding editor of the ACS Applied Optical Materials. So she obtained her laurea in Chimica from the University of Pisa. She's Italian. Then moved to the University of Chicago, where she completed her PhD with Philip Eaton. Then, she studied there the synthesis of ring opening of cubane. After a postdoc at the University of Texas in Austin with Mary Ann Fox, she joined Rutgers in 1996. So her research focuses on, she is chemist by training, so her research focuses on the functionalization of semiconductor surfaces with chromophores to control charge transfer processes relevant to solar energy conversion. So today she will give us a brief introduction of her research. Most of the editors of ACS are researchers and editors at the same time, which gives us a perspective of research, of course. And then she will also give you some overview of the journal. All right, so Elena, please.
So now that we figured out how to work out a pointer, first of all, I would like to thank very much Dr. Garcia David for organizing this visit. I'm very excited to be here to visit actually Madrid for the first time, not Spain, but Madrid the first time, and to visit his university and learn about your work later in the afternoon. So the reason I'm here is really to introduce our journal, ACS Applied Optical Materials, so I'll start from the end. First, I will tell you a bit about the journal, and then about my research. And that will be shorter than the next speaker, just because also my field of interest, it's more synthetic oriented. It's a little bit outside maybe the interests of this institute. But anyway, starting. So the journal that I will tell you about is the last of a family of journal which is called ACS Applied Materials in family. And this portfolio was started in 2009 by Kirk Shantz, who is a colleague, a chemist like myself. And everything started from a journal on applied materials and interfaces. So it was spun out of Neumaier, who is more fundamental, and then there was a need back then of a more applied journal where more applied research and interfaces would be published. This attracted a lot of interest and publication. I think the time was right, and then it spawned a family of journals. In 2018 was the Applied Bio Materials, Nanomaterials, and Energy Materials. And then the next following year, Electronic and Polymer. And then in 2022, 2 journals were launched, Engineering and Optical. So I will say that actually the electronic materials is represented here by Professor Neumaier, who will be speaking next. He's an associate editor. So I will tell you a little bit of ACS Applied Optical Material because it's relevant to the interests of this community, and we are looking for excellence, and we're looking for authors in this field. So now the journals have also staff dedicated to coordinate the publication, and today a managing editor for our journals, both ACS Applied Electronic Materials and Optical, Dr. Zhang is here, and he will give the last presentation with more the technicalities about the publication. So the journal was launched in 2022, and I frankly, it was very interesting, and I had no experience of publishing, and I realized very quickly that actually was a very creative work. You have to think how the journal, which communities to reach out, how the journal should look like, what areas of novelty to search for, and I have to admit that when I started, I didn't know what I was getting into, and probably I say yes for that reason exactly. But so the journal after started, now we received our first impact factor, 3.8, this in 2025. And we try to maintain a very fast publication timing. So these are some statistics about the journals. So these are not really updated to this past month, so they're about this give an idea that actually it's taking off. Now, the key thing I found, it was very lucky actually to work with a group of associate editors who are fantastic, and especially David was very creative in determining that direction and thinking of special journals, and thank you very, very much, David. So each of these editors has an area of, it's an active scientist and has an area of research that complement each other. But besides and we have 5 of them in different areas of optical materials. And in 2025, we had 2 editors, one from the US, one from China, but David was there from the very beginning. And I have to say that each has been extremely important to start and to give ideas of directions for the journals. So these are the editorial team. We really communicate like colleagues. And I would say the energy and interest is as important as their expertise in scientific expertise. Really, the energy and willingness to reach out to authors, to think about issues. So a journal is not just a publication, but really reaching out to a community and have an international appeal. So this is the journal scope, but effectively what we are going to do is at the end of these presentations answer your questions. If you have questions about the submission, about the journal scope and everything, and we can reach out. So now I'm going to tell you a little bit, if I can. First, I think I end this. So my group, first I have to tell you where Rutgers is. So I am at Rutgers University, and the name is not associated with a geographical location. So it's I always have to show a little bit where I am. So this is the State University of New Jersey, and it's divided in 3 campuses: Newark, New Brunswick, and Camden. So the north, the center, and the south of New Jersey. It's a very large and old, for American standard, university. Has 67 students in total, but truly the main campus, it's in New Brunswick. I'm located in Newark. Newark has 11,000 students, so it's relatively small, and then there is a medical school. The New Brunswick campus is divided actually in 5 campuses, so it's really very huge and spread out. And Camden is the smallest, and it's close to Philadelphia. So we are very close to Rutgers Newark, and the chemistry department is distributed in 3 buildings. And what I show you here is my office, and that's where my building is. So I do not match very well, I think, the interests of this audience, because my interest, I'm really a synthetic organic chemist by training, but for many years I've worked at interfaces with inorganic semiconductors. So these are relevant to solar energy conversion, and I'm not just talking about the dye-sensitized solar cells that 20 years ago were very much of interest. This phenomenon of charge transfer at this type of interfaces is of interest really from a fundamental point of view. So I do not make devices. We are really interested in tuning charge transfer properties, events from light absorbers to semiconductors. And there are a variety of areas where this is of interest. For instance, now there is a big effort in solar fuels and so on. So this primary event following excitation, photoexcitation, light is absorbed, forms an excited state, and then is injected in a semiconductor. Usually it's titanium dioxide, but it could be zinc oxide, it could be conductive transparent oxide. So this has a variety of application. My interest is truly more from a synthetic and fundamental point of view. We have looked at different kind of structures, including single crystal, which are not technologically relevant, but from a fundamental point of view, they are very ordered system. And what we are trying to do is really to tune the attachment. So the title indicated the chromophores, but really we use a fairly standard chromophores. What we are interested is the interface here. This how to tune the charge transfer through the anchor and bridging unit. And the challenges is, for instance, prevent recombination, tune energy and level alignment, packing, surface orientation, and so on. Last year, we started to move on quantum dots with colleagues at the National Renewable Energy Lab in Colorado. So a little bit, many, many years ago, these processes involved a very simple molecular design. So the molecule, with this is just a cartoon, was physically attached to the surface. And then we started to design molecules that have a more sophisticated attachment to the surface, which could control, for instance, distance, packing, insulate or shield the chromophore. So my group has also started to look at linker units that have an additional function. So they have some other property that it's not limited to like a geometrical control on the surface, that can really tune properties such as, for instance, energy alignment to the surface. An example of this is that for some years we worked on systems that contain a strong molecular dipole between the light absorber and the semiconductor, and the dipole position can be reversed, and that can be used. Basically, the chromophore is the same, could be a porphyrin, could be a perilene, ruthenium complex, it doesn't matter. The point is that just the bridging unit, by using the dipole, could shift the energy alignment of the chromophore to the surface. That is of interest to eventually for charge transfer and charge recombination events. So you can take, for instance, a chromophore that is a very poor photoreductant, and with a proper bridge, make it a good photoreductant, a good sensitizer. So what we've been working in the past few years is collaborate with a physicist. So I'm a synthetic chemist. We do some spectroscopic characterization of these interfaces, but to look at the charge transfer, these events are very fast in the femtosecond regime, and they need not just instrumentation, but really knowledge. And I'm very lucky to have collaborators that are really fantastic. One of them is Lars Kundlach at the University of Delaware, and he was part of one of the early teams that studied this charge transfer from perilene to interfaces. So he really knows how to measure and interpret this data, which is not a trivial thing at all. So what we are doing with him is that we are trying to do something a little bit different, to use dual linkers, where one is forming a very strong attachment. This strong attachment is important, for instance, in photocatalysts. They use aqueous environment, acidic conditions, so these systems tend to desorb. And what we are designing with him is a system instead that have a second unit that is responsive, let's say, to temperature or pH. So basically now the linker is multi-pronged, but these groups do not have the same function. I think I'm running out of time. I'll skip this slide, just showing you that I just very quickly show you the kind of molecules we have been studying, mostly to start a conversation later with the groups when I will have the individual meetings. There is truly no time to go into real scientific detail, also because I had to introduce the journal. So we also looked at systems where the attachment to the surface is not covalent directly, but there is is encapsulated into a host, and this allows actually protection of chromophores that otherwise would be degraded by the surface, and also the recombination and injection rates change. So these are some of the structures that we have been working on. Another project that was published a couple of years ago, this is with a group of Jerry Meyer, University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill, is to look not at distance effect, but a conformational effect, which are very important. So basically use conformational twisting to promote injection and inhibit recombination. So it's like kind of a rectification effect. So as you see, the other thing is, for instance, orientation that can change it. This the positioning of the chromophore. I currently I'm working a lot with perilene derivatives. So I don't know. So perilene is a polyaromatic hydrocarbon. Has very. The reason we studied it's because the excited state, radical cation, and all the species that are formed, those following excitation and injection, are very well separated spectroscopically. So one can really monitor what's going on following injection. The other one is that we are interested in this because of the interest in singlet fission phenomena. So now, having acquired this ability to tune the binding on the surface, my next project is to control long distance stacking and orientation. This is of interest for singlet fission solar cells, so kind of going in directions where actually the attachment and stacking and relative position is really important for the function. Other properties I will not go over. So this is just to show you that what we do in my lab, we basically developed methods, a variety of methods to really functionalize different positions with the same link or different linkers, saturated, unsaturated. And basically, these are two identical linkers, but we can also, these linkers can be different. And I do not think I have time. I'm running out of time, so I just wanted to show one thing. We also collaborate with theoreticians. This is very important for our research because in order to make predictions, for instance, for the geometry, and also to understand the data. I knew that I would be running out of time, so I apologize for that. I can discuss that a little bit later. So the point that I wanted to make is that what we discovered is that conformational effect and binding modes are extremely important for the injection recombination, and that once the molecule, that it's important to have an absolute understanding and control of both the orientation, but also the binding mode and how these attachments work in order to study injection and the recombination phenomena. So this is still very fundamental science, I would say more on the organic side. And now we are developing the systems which have two separate functions, one per linker. And I think I'll finish here. Just wanted to show that synthetic design can be useful to really tune not just the chromophore, but really the interface, the communication with the interface for renewable energy application, but for many other important applications. The only caveat I have shown cartoons. That's a very dangerous mindset to always use cartoons, so they can be representative, but heterogeneity and complexity of these interfaces very often, we have to be very careful about the interpretation. Wanted to thank the US Department of Energy, ACS, for today. And talking about cartoons, this is what my group came up with, an AI-generated picture, with, which I like very much because I look much younger. And this is what I always tell them, not to treat data in this way and to always present the real picture. Thank you. Sorry for running so late. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So, do you have scientific questions now? Maybe we can leave them for the last part of the session, or maybe you have a quick question, I don't know. If not, we go then to the next presentation. So,
okay.
Yeah, to turn it off. So we need to, we go to the next presentation, which is by Professor Daniel Neumaier. I should point to the microphone. Daniel Neumaier, he is a full professor at the University of Wuppertal in Germany, and he's associate editor at the ACS Applied Electronic Materials. So he received his PhD from the University of Regensburg in 2009, where he worked on quantum transport in low-dimensional semiconductors. He then led the graphene group at EMO in Aachen before joining Wuppertal in 2020, where he leads the chair of smart sensor systems. He will present an overview of his research, which is on photodetectors. You can come. Photodetectors, terahertz detectors, flexible electronics, and challenges in wafer scale manufacturing.
Is it working? Yeah, seems to work. Thanks a lot, David, for that kind introduction and also for the invitation to come to Madrid to present the research, to present our journals. It's a really great pleasure to be here. And yeah, as you said, I'm working at the University of Wuppertal, and I also have an affiliation to EMO, which is located in Aachen. So Wuppertal is pretty close to Cologne. Düsseldorf, Aachen is on the other side of Cologne, so not far from each other. And I'm also working as associate editor for the journal ACS Applied Electronic Materials. Sheng Mei will give a more detailed overview on all the applied materials family. ACS Applied Electronic Materials, it was founded 7 years ago, 2019, and I joined it as an associated editor some 3-4 years back. And the scope of that journal is to publish essentially anything related to electronic materials. So whether it's material science related to electronics or electronic devices, optoelectronic devices, that's all within the scope of that journal. So for instance, we receive significant number of submissions related to metal oxide-based semiconductors, thin film-based semiconductor, organic electronics, of course. Perovskite is quite a hype topic. Wide bandgap semiconductors, and also last but not least 2D materials. And I will give an overview on future electronic applications for 2D materials, which also includes the research we do in Aachen and also in Wuppertal. So that's essentially the kind of research I'm doing right now. And as you will see, for 2D materials, that's quite an established topic, emerged some 20 years ago. The gold rush seems to be over. So what we face right now are the challenges when it comes to bridge the gap between fundamental research and real application in the end. So some kind of serious engineering challenges in order to bring these new materials into real-life applications. 2D materials, well, you might have heard of them. Graphene, probably the most popular one, was discovered pretty long time ago. Got popular 2005, 2006 with the groundbreaking research of the Manchester group. And, well, it's not the only 2D material right now out there. So with 2D material, we are talking about any layered kind of material, which you can produce also in a single or multi-layer form. Boron nitride. Oh, here we have the. No. Perfect. Ah, that's the laser pointer. Okay, perfect. So the family of 2D materials, it, well, covers essentially all kind of electronic materials. So from insulator like boron nitride to metals, vanadium oxide, vanadium sulfide, to the semiconductor material molybdenum sulfide, tungsten diselenide. And from electronic perspective, the semiconductors and also the semi-metal graphene are probably the most promising and also the most or well-known or most understood materials. When it comes to application, especially electronic application, there's a bunch of applications you can conceive with 2D materials. Of course, the first thing people come up with is replacing silicon. That seems to be the holy grail in electronics. But replacing silicon is something very challenging and probably never happen in the future. So, but anyway, for 2D materials, application range is pretty huge, and some of them are pretty promising. In terms of sensor application, we see a lot of research going on when it comes to infrared light imaging and also membrane-based sensors which you use in your smartphone. Then RF electronics, of course, that's a quite natural application for graphene. Flexible electronics, that's a branch I will discuss a little bit more in detail in the following slides. And last but not least, we are back at replacing silicon when it comes to the heart of the logic operations and logic devices, but that seems to be pretty challenging, but not completely out of scope. IMEC, that's a research center in Belgium. You probably have heard about it, and they are pretty deep into silicon technology, silicon CMOS technology, scaling down the transistors at a research level, and they published a roadmap recently on how they see silicon CMOS evolving within the next decade. And right now, what you can buy in the shop is the so-called 3 nanometer nodes. That's state-of-the-art silicon technology. And in 3 nanometer technology, the transistors are based on silicon using FinFET structures. So you have some kind of vertical silicon stripes which are surrounded by high K dielectric. So that's what we have right now. In the future, that's the next technology node, 2 nanometer node. The 14A stands for atom, if I remember correctly, or you can also say angstrom. That's not pretty clear whether this is atom or angstrom. We will see a transition to nanosheets. Nanosheets will dominate until 2029 roundabout, but it's still based on silicon. And the next evolution which is expected is the so-called complementary FET technology. So that's an extension of the nanosheet, but complementary means we have the PMOS and the NMOS, so both polarities on top of each other, and that will save again some space, increasing the transistor count. And at the very end, maybe in 12 years from now, we have 2D materials, which is promising from the research perspective of 2D materials, but it's also somehow not clear yet whether we will end really at this stage, because that depends not only on the success of 2D materials, if we can handle all the challenges related to 2D materials, but also on other factors. One important factor is lithography, optical lithography. At the moment, extreme UV lithography is used, and the typical structure size for the 3 nanometer node is 23 nanometer. So you see 3 nanometer node is some kind of branding word. It's not really 3 nanometer. The sizes, we have a factor of nearly 10 larger sizes on our transistors. But when we move to the A3, A2 node, we need to further reduce the structure size on a chip to 10 60 nanometer, and it's an open question whether we can really achieve that within reasonable costs. Cost is, of course, something which is exploding the smaller you get. But nevertheless, it's worth looking at 2D materials, especially the semiconducting 2D materials with respect to application in electronics. And it's not all about ultimately scaled logic, but also new computing paradigms like neuromorphic computing, quantum computing can be considered. And also one other trend we see at the moment is a transition to more flexible devices, mechanically flexible devices, where we see right now the start of some kind of new application scenario. And TMDCs, that is the kind of 2D material which is probably the most promising one for logic application, is a material class, again layered. We have it here, exact. We have a heavy metal in the middle, a transition metal, molybdenum, tungsten, and some chalcogen atoms at the top. From the top, it looks pretty similar to graphene, honeycomb lattice, with the difference that you have here two atoms sitting on top of each other, located out of plane. So it's essentially three layers on top of each other, which forms one of the monolayer. And the nice thing with that material is it has a band gap. Band gap size round about 1 point something to 2 point something electron volt, depending on which composition in this crystal you have. And that's the ideal band gap size for electronic application, because it allows you to construct logic transistors which switch sufficiently large. Now, when we have a new material, and the first thing we need to do is we need to compare it with other electronic materials. So if we don't have a unique selling point or a clear advantage compared to established materials, it will be pretty hard for applications to enter any application. And the competitors are, of course, silicon for ultimately scaled devices, for logic, what you have in your smartphone, what you have in your computer. And for flexible electronics, the competitors are all other thin film materials like metal oxides or organics. Also, polycrystalline silicon can be considered as one competitor. And when it comes to comparison to silicon, the only advantage, and that's already a big advantage, is that the material is pretty thin. So you don't have short channel effects, which are parasitic effects happening when you scale down the transistor to very small dimension. But that becomes only relevant after you reach a certain transistor gate length. And that's the reason why we have on our roadmap 2D materials only 12 years ahead of the current state, and not right now. At the moment, with the current transistor size, silicon works perfect, but as smaller silicon becomes, you get into trouble because of short channel effects, and those short channel effects you don't have with 2D material. When it comes to thin film materials, well, let's go back. That's quite unusual. The key advantage here is that you can get both excellent P and N-type transistors. Metal oxide, they work very well as N-type materials. Organics, they work very well as P-type materials. But both, you cannot get P and N-type at the same time in a reasonable way. For display applications, that doesn't matter. So we will probably never see 2D materials in display backplanes for OLEDs, because you don't need CMOS operation. But when it comes to more complex circuits, CMOS operation is the only way to go, because it's significantly more energy efficient compared to NMOS or PMOS type of logic. And that's the entry point I see for 2D materials when it comes to flexible electronics. And well, the nice thing with 2D materials is you get it on wafer scale. So you can process large areas of 2D materials. You can process them on any substrate, polymer substrate, and in order to get flexible electronic devices, what we do in Aachen is we first use a silicon carrier wafer just as a flat substrate. We deposit a polymer film on top. Here this is polyimide. Polyamide is used because it's a very robust polymer. You can do anything without disturbing it. And then we process gate electrodes, dielectric, first to the material MOS2. We make the transistor out of the MOS2 transistor, and further on we continue with the P-type semiconductor. Here we use tungsten deselenide as a transistor material, and we finalize all the structures, and at the very end we just peel off the polymer from the silicon. That enables us to use the same fabrication techniques which we have for silicon, so that we can handle the devices in the same way we are used to handle them from silicon. But of course, when you have a foil, you can envision also other fabrication techniques like printing, roll-to-roll fabrication, which are more suitable for mass volume production. And well, that's essentially an inverter structure made out of silicon. We have the NMOS transistor. It's switching by around about 7 to 8 orders of magnitude. That's more than enough. It's clear NMOS operation. NMOS means it turns on towards the right side, so at positive voltages. And the tungsten deselenide is a PMOS. That's a whole transport covered transistor, and this one turns on at negative voltages. And if you combine both, you can do CMOS logic. First demonstration of CMOS logic is of course an inverter, and here the inverting characteristic that's essentially demonstrating the advantage of CMOS operation. It switches perfectly from one rail plus 5 volt to ground. Quite abrupt switching. The higher the voltages, the more the switching is. And the key figure of merit for these inverters, in my view, is the noise margin, which is pretty close to the 50%, which is the idle noise margin. Noise margin in CMOS, you might not be familiar with that, is essentially the level of noise you can handle when cascading different stages of the logic. So you have one inverter, and you cascade it with another inverter. And what happens in between is that you can get some noise inside. And, well, first inverter switches from here to here. If you add some noise, then you shift the switching, and the basic idea is of the noise margin, of a large noise margin, is that you retain the initial signal at the very end. So that switching happens in a proper way, even if the signal is not properly adjusted to what you are expecting. And that's the strength of CMOS circuits. That's noise margin gives you some freedom in order to handle these noises. And also with noise, I'm not only talking about noise which comes in from external sources, but also some kind of process variabilities, that not every transistor is identical to the other one, so that you have some variances in the individual transistor behavior. And that makes it quite robust to imperfections in the manufacturing. Well, we did different kind of CMOS circuits, a ring oscillator on foil. That's a quite simple demonstration. You just put in 3 inverters, 1, 2, 3, into a loop, and that loop immediately starts to oscillate because there's no stable solution. And the oscillation frequency, it gives you some information about the delay in an inverter and about the response speed. And we also did some kind of multiplexers which you need in sensor array. If you have more input streams, you want to combine them in one. And what do we see? We have input number 1, it's a fast oscillation, input number 2, and with the multiplexer we can switch between input number 1 to input number 2. So that's the heart of signal processing and signal handling on a chip. Well, flexible electronics, it's not only about enabling new applications, but it also gives you a new degree of freedom of combining different functionalities and different stacks. So our vision, that's the route we will pursue in the next couple of years in order to realize more complex devices on a system level, is that we also do 3D integration with foils. And with foils you can simply laminate electronic devices on top of each other. So what you see here is these are 2 foils polyimide. Each foil is around about 5 to 7 micrometers thick, and we bonded them together. Each of the foil contained electronics. So in this case, an inverter on the top side and an inverter on the back side. And in this way, you can combine not only identical technologies, but on the long term, what we want to do, we want to combine different technologies to pick out the best technology for each purpose. For instance, this is a schematic. We are not there yet, but we are trying to get there, of a flexible sensor patch which contains light generation. So here organic solar cells. That will be some organic solar cells, some RF electronics, energy management circuit below in order to handle the energy from the solar cell and to transmit the sensor signal to the handheld device, some CMOS digital and analog signal processing, sensor arrays for biomarkers, and also microfluidic management, in this case sweat management. And that's in my view some nice perspective on the future activities where we can combine or choose the best technology for each purpose and stack them in a quite smart three-dimensional arrangement. Now for RF electronics, we lean a little bit more than just transistors and diodes. We also need passive structures. That's a big part of RF electronics: antennas, inductors, capacitors, resistors. And in order to integrate 2D materials into such an MMIC, so monolithic microwave integrated circuit process, we developed a multi-layer approach with 1, 2, 3 metal layers, interconnects. The 2D material is located somewhere in the middle, and this allows us to build resistors, inductors, capacitors, diodes, and finally also transistors on top of each other, and to realize more complex integrated circuits. I won't go into detail to save some time, but the integrated circuits which we realize, they span mixers working at 10 gigahertz, power detectors up to 60 gigahertz. That is a QAM, so quadrature amplitude modulated receiver, so state of the art for Wi-Fi communication, operating at 2.4 gigahertz. So you can realize nearly any RF circuit you want in the sub gigahertz to probably around about 200 gigahertz regime, and that's quite powerful for thin film material. Now, last but not least, combination between 2D materials and silicon technology is also something we should have a deeper look in. For instance, extending the capability of silicon CMOS by infrared sensing functionalities. So if you want to realize an infrared sensor based on silicon, might be quite difficult because absorption is pretty low. So bringing in new materials into a silicon fabrication line could be a smart way in order to increase the functionality. And the decisive steps at the moment, they are essentially linked to material science: substrate preparation, transfer of the substrate, and encapsulation. So handling all the interfaces is currently the key challenge here. And this challenge, it's handled right now within a couple of EU projects. One of them is the 2D pilot line, where we already offer some foundry services. I'm rushing a little bit through the slides to come to the end. And what we do here, we can fabricate on a wafer scale. That's a 10-inch, no, not 10-inch, that's an 8-inch wafer. Silicon wafer with graphene devices on top, tailor-made for different sensor applications. This is something we can offer right now at the prototyping level with a relatively high level of reproducibility. And that brings me directly to the end of the presentation. Well, for 2D materials, we are now at the stage where we need to be where applications come close, but we need to invest quite a lot of engineering efforts, material science efforts, in order to bridge the gap from discovery of nice effects towards exploiting them in real application. That's true for flexible electronics, that's true for logic electronics, but also for RF circuits. And the key challenge will be material science in the future, controlling the interfaces, scaling up manufacturing, and relying on automatization. And with that, let me thank my collaborators from Aachen and also from Wuppertal for contributing to the work, and finally you for your attention. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Okay, do we have any technical question, any scientific question to this talk? Great, Thomas.
The growth has been developed for more than 10 years, so we know what to do, but for the P-talk, nobody wants to handle selenites in the lab, and that's why it has not been so well developed. You see also mobility is lagging behind for the tungsten deselenide, which we can compensate by adjusting the structures, but yeah, that's the main reason for the hysteresis.
Thanks. Thanks.
Any other question? Maybe we can leave the questions for the colloquium. So let's thank Daniel again, and then we have the last talk by Chen-Mei Zhong. He's managing editor, so he will be giving us a talk on the publication process. Actually, not much of research. So Chen-Mei got his PhD from the South China University of Technology in 2014 with 8 years of research experience in organic optoelectronic materials and ultra-fast laser spectroscopy. So he joined ACS in Washington, D.C. in 2018, and currently he is managing 4 journals in the ACS Applied Materials and Interfaces family. So his talk is going to guide us through the best practices for manuscript preparation, journal selection, and understanding of the peer review process. Thank you.
Hello. Okay. Yeah, very nice to see everyone here. My name is Chen-Mei Zhong from ACS Publications Department, and thanks Dr. David Garcia for the introduction. As he said, I'm the staff editor in ACS Publications Division and overseeing ACS Applied Materials family of journals, including Dr. Elena Galoppini's journal, ACS Applied Optical Materials. And today I'm going to give you an introduction about the ACS Applied Materials family of journals in more detail, and also give you some tips on how to publish scientific papers in ACS journals. So Dr. Elena Galoppini has already shown you this picture, so I'm not going to do more introductions on this, but just want to emphasize this is a very large journal family, not only within all the ACS journals, but also a very large family of journals comparable to the size of Advanced Materials and RSC Materials journals. And everyone's very welcome to submit to our journals. And here's more statistics on our family of journals. So this slide was last updated like 2 years ago. So the 2 new journals is not here. And but you can see ACS Applied Materials and Interfaces here published more than 5,000 papers in 2025. So a huge journal, very popular in the material science community. And ACS Applied Energy Materials. So these journals, as you can see from the title, the scope is very clear. Energy materials, materials for energy research, like batteries, supercapacitors, and photocatalysis, electrocatalysis for energy applications. So this is like the 3rd largest one. Energy materials published around 1,600 papers in 2025 with an impact factor of 5.6. And then the 2nd largest journal in our family, ACS Applied Nanomaterials, led by Dr. Randall Lee in the United States, published around 2,000 papers in 2025, and also impact factor of around 5.5. And then biomaterials, led by Dr. Shu Wang in China, 800 papers in 2025, around 800 papers, impact factor 4.6. And electronic materials, Dr. Daniel just made a brief introduction, publishes around 1,000 papers in 2025. It's also immensely popular in electronic materials and device community, and has an impact factor of 4.7. Applied polymer materials, in the polymer community, led by Dr. Jody Lutkenhaus in the United States, and around 1,500 papers per year, and has an impact factor of 4.8. And the flagship journal, ACS Applied Materials and Interfaces, has an impact factor of 8.2. So they're all under the leadership of Dr. Xingyi Ling from Singapore, and every journal has a deputy editor. The one in Optical Materials is Dr. Elena Galoppini, and and AMI, it's Dr. Peter Müller-Buschbaum in Technical University of Munich in Germany, and they're all led by, as Dr. David Garcia said, ACS is a non-profit organization, and all our scientific journals run by ACS Publication Division. They're a little bit different from like a commercial publisher like Wiley Elsevier. So all the journal leadership is by active scientists like Dr. Xingyi Ling from Nanyang Technical University in Singapore, and Elena, ACS Applied Optical in Rutgers University, and Peter Müller-Buschbaum, as I said, in the Technical University of Munich, and Dr. Ying Wu, Ohio State University in USA. Randy Lee in the University of Houston, USA. Dr. Shu Wang in the Institute of Chemistry in the Chinese Academy of Sciences in China. And Dr. Hyun-jae Kim, like Yonsei University in Korea. So, and not only the leadership, all the associate editor who handle your manuscript that you submitted, like Dr. David Garcia in ACS Applied Optical Materials, they're all like active scientists, and staff scientists like me in ACS publication only support their work in doing strategic planning and marketing, etc. All the day-to-day operations of the journal. And we do, as a staff editor, we do not interfere with the academic freedom of the associate editors who hold the real academia power and the editorial power in the journals. So this is the journal that Dr. Elena Galoppini just introduced to you. This is one of the more new journals launched in 2022, and it now receives an impact factor of more than 4, which is a very high number actually in the optical materials research community. So we encourage everyone who does optical materials research to submit to the journal that Elena and David's working in. And the other relatively new journal is ACS Applied Engineering Materials, which is launched in the same year as ACS Applied Optical Materials. This journal has a very wide scope, so anything material research that has potential application in engineering, you can submit there. So, and this is led by Dr. Jessica Schiffman, who was based in University of Massachusetts, Amherst in USA. And it's capturing a lot of the work on 3D printing, polymer related materials that are more focused on applications that are related to engineering, like construction, etc. You can submit to this journal. And since ACS Applied Bio, in our travel plan, there's the deputy editor of ACS Applied Bio Materials should be traveling here, but he had some visa issues to Europe, so unfortunately Dr. Shu Wang couldn't come here, so I'm doing a little bit of introduction of this journal on his behalf. So as you can see, this journal is focused solely on applied materials research on the biomaterials applications. So an interdisciplinary journal publishing original research covering all aspects of biomaterials and biointerfaces, including biosensing, biosensors, biomedical research, and therapeutic application. This journal receives a lot of submissions on a drug delivery, and also a photodynamic therapy, and etc. And Xingyi Ling, as I said, is the EIC editor-in-chief and the top leadership among all 8 ACS MI family journals, and Dr. Shu Wang, the deputy editor, handles the more detailed, fine-grained strategy and scope management of the journal, who's coming from, as I said, Chinese Academy of Sciences and the Institute of Chemistry, based in Beijing, China. And it's got a impact factor of 4.7 in 2024, which is a decent number for a biomaterial science journal, biomaterials research journal. And the site score in 2024 is 9.0. The other good thing about this journal, and this is also true for almost all the AMI family journals, is that we have a very fast competitive processing time. So if you want your research to be published quickly, So as an example, this journal has an average acceptance times after submission 70 days, which is like around 10 weeks, which is very competitive compared to a lot of the other material science journals in the field. And the fastest one, like that's one of the Dr. Elena Galoppini and Dr. David Garcia's journal, ACS Applied Optical Materials, has about 8 to 9 weeks. So it can accept your paper as fast as like 56 days or 60 days, which is very impressive. And so the total publications in 2025 for ACS Applied Biomaterials is around 800 papers, as I said. And it's got a lot of citations. So the total citations in 2025 is over 16,000. And which is in accordance to the relatively good impact factor that you see here. And you can also follow the ACS the X or Twitter account, which is ACS Publications. Right now, we are consolidating all the ACS Journal X or Twitter activities in this very big ACS X account, ACS Publications. You can see it on X, and we're also active on Blue Sky if you are more into that. And of course, a lot of our editors actually have social media accounts. For instance, Elena is very active on LinkedIn, if you're interested. And here are some recent special issues in this ACS Applied Biomaterials. And we also do a lot of call for papers in different ACS-MI family journals. So this is, for instance, this is published in 2023, which is a geographically focused special issue on biomaterials research in East Asia Pacific region. And in 2024, we published a special issue on computational biomaterials, which is mostly focused on theoretical work on biomaterials. And then in 2025, we have a joint special issue published between ACS Applied Biomaterials and ACS Pharmacology and Translational Science on diagnosis and therapy of chronic wounds, which is quite a hot field in biomaterials and biomedical research. And this is a slide about all the most frequent keywords published in this journal, as you can see. Tissue engineering and RNA therapy, wound healing, dressing, peptide materials, polymer materials for biomedical applications, and also biocatalysis, and a lot about curing cancer, materials research on curing cancer. And as I said, there's now like 8 different family journals in ACS Applied Materials family of journals, and some of these journals have overlaps of scope. So as an author and reviewer, you may sometimes get confused on which journal you want to publish in our family. So here's a QR code on this slide, and you can scan this QR code, and there's a small website where you can answer 3 to 5 questions that I think most of them are designed by me, and we can by your answers of these 3 to 5 questions, we can guide you to the most suitable journal in our family, among the 8 journals that we have here. And if you're interested, you can scan the QR code here, and I think you can also very easily find it on Google search, like just where to publish in ACS Applied Materials family of journals, and it will guide you to that website. And after I introduce the family of Applied Materials Research, now I'm going to give you a more broad overview of all the ACS journals that we publish in ACS Publications. So ACS Publications' goal is to deliver indispensable solution to researchers around the globe who are to address global challenges. So this is a slide that's like updated 1 or 2 years ago. So it says 80 plus peer-reviewed journals. So as of this year, we've grown to like over 90 journals in ACS Publications. And some of them, I think more than 10 of them are like fully open access. I know this is a very important topic for European researchers, and all the others are hybrid journals, which means if you can choose to publish open access with a fee. But for CSIC, I know you don't need to do that because we have a read and publish agreement. I don't know if all of you are familiar. So which basically means because CSIC and the Autonomous University of Spain of Madrid, they have a subscription with ACS journals. So basically, everyone can publish certain number of papers open access for free with ACS. So it's a very good deal. So you can make use of that if you're interested. And ACS Publications, we publish 90 plus journals nowadays, and also apart from scientific journals, we also have ACS Legacy Archives, which is the digital archive of all journals before 1995, like all the paper version of the journals. And we also publish ACS Symposium series. It's mostly like only ACS Symposiums only. So if it's another conference, I don't think we have published those symposiums. But we do have those kind of products that you're interested. And we've also published books, electronic books, like ACS Guide to Scholarly Communication, which I recommend if you are new to the scientific community and you haven't published a lot of scientific papers yet. This is a very good paper. This is a very good book to guide you how to publish good papers, at least in the chemistry community. And then there's also professional books like ACS Reagent Chemicals and all the other different areas of chemical research. We have textbook and other types of professional books. And yeah, this is the slogan for the ACS publications for all ACS journals. We aim to publish the most trusted, most cited, most read papers in the scientific community. So as we have more than 90 journals in the field, we are not only publishing journals in chemistry. So as you know, that ACS publishing journals in chemistry, but actually we've expanded. Like in the journal, like Elena and David's working, ACS Applied Optical Materials, we do attract a lot of papers in the physics community also. And like the journal ACS Applied Electronic that Daniel's working in, we also attract people publish, community from the physics and the device background, not just chemistry. So yeah, ACS has expanded, so it's not just about chemistry, and we're expanding to all areas related to chemistry. So then I'm going to, in about 10 minutes, I'm going to give you a brief introduction, especially for PhD students, postdocs, that if you're interested, like how to publish a better scientific paper in journal, like in ACS journals. So the first step is selecting the journal for your submission. As I said, there are so many journals, and ACS alone has 90 plus. And if you look at the material science in other, like Elsevier, Wiley, there's like hundreds of journals you can select from. So sometimes authors can get confused. What do you choose? Obviously, you first look at the impact factor, but as from the perspective of a non-profit publisher, I think there are more important aspects that you can also look into. Like, does it fit your community? Like the best researchers in the community, what kind of journals they're looking at? I'm sure a lot of the top researchers in the field in U.S., in other parts of the world, they not only look at the impact factor, they also look at the reputation, the history of the journals, and also their friends, their community. Where do they publish? Where do they read those journals? And I think ACS journals, they are very community. They're usually very good community-based journals, even though our impact factor may not be that high compared to like advanced materials or other material science journals. But they're very good reputations in the field. The editors are like active scientists. They have very good connections with the community. So that's something you can consider when you want to publish your paper in a journal. And also, for the time limit, I'm not going to go to very details, but here's a very good resource if you want to know more about the ACS journals. There's scope and all the templates and all the detailed like requirements for different journals. You can just go to publish.acs.org, and there's a policy. And also you can check the ethics guidelines of ACS journals, because ethic issues, it's becoming more and more prevalent in recent years, because there are more and more journals and more publications, and there are more and more ethical issues. So it would be good if before publication you can check the ethical guidelines in ACS journals. And then after you decide on which journal you publish, here's some small tips, like how to better publish your paper and to gain more citations and gain more readership of your papers. And as an editor, I would say, in my personal experience, you should really focus on crafting a very good title, abstract, and table content graphic for your paper. And the first thing is to craft a strong title. Why a strong title is important? First, I'll go into some small tips about how to craft a strong title. Most important thing is number one is that a short title. Don't make your title very long. And as a rule of thumb, I think this is good for all ACS journals, that use a maximum of 20 words and be grammatically sound. I think in some journals, the editor will tell you, try to make it within 10 words or 15 words. so that you capture the author's attention without making them go all over the place like 30 or 40 words, which is sometimes confusing. And yeah. And the second point is that select strong action verbs and avoid overuse of adjectives, avoid adverbs, so that your title becomes too complicated, like a maze to the readers. Yeah. And the third tip is that make your words resonate with the TOC graphic and include keywords for SEO. This is more and more important nowadays because every aspect of scientific research, like chemistry and material science, you get like tens of thousands of papers every year. So nowadays, many new generation of readers, they don't go to specific journals to read papers. They just type in the keywords they are interested in the Google Scholar or other search engines to look for papers. So it's very important that your papers make it to the top 10, top 20 of the search results. So you can do that by crafting your title and keywords and abstract the keywords that authors are interested, and so that you gain more exposure from the search engine. And then the fourth tip is that avoid. That's actually more like a specific tip in ACS publications, because usually our journals are like community-based and read by professionals. So in our journals, at least, not like in the Nature series, our editors typically would like authors to avoid buzzwords and not too flashy buzzwords, and then try not to use acronyms and abbreviations in the titles. Always use the full words. So that, because our journals, we want to be like the papers to be easily read by like undergraduate level readers. And then the last tip is like avoid potential untested applications and hard to justify claims like best first novel, which might be good if you want to publish in Nature or Science, but usually for professional journals and ACS journals, we try to educate our authors, try to avoid those, unless you have a really convincing result that it is indeed a best and first. And the reason that you want to craft a strong title is like we usually give our audience like the candy store analogy, like the readers like an indecisive kid in a candy store. And nowadays every discipline of chemistry or other scientific chemistries, other scientific disciplines, they publish 10,000s of papers every year. So as a reader, you go to a store with 10,000 different types of of candy. Yeah, they don't know what to choose from. So they will look at the tag, which is the title of your paper. You have to attract the reader to read your paper. Yeah, here's some key benefits of crafting a very good title. Yeah, I think it's very straightforward, so I don't need to make a lot of detailed explanations. And crafting a strong title, we always give recommendations to authors, like choose goal first and then the title format. And we have three very good examples of formats of a good title. The first type is generate curiosity, or what will be answered in your paper. So use interrogative format for your title. Example would be, how isolated are the electronic states of the core in the core shell nanoparticles? And then the second type of good titles we recommend to everyone is that describe procedures but provide no answers, so that you have a suspense. You leave the authors like a good suspense. Why? So that they will go into your paper and look for the details. Use a descriptive type format for your title, but you don't disclose all the details, so that there's suspense. The example would be design nanocage displaying ligand-specific peptide bunches for high affinity and biological activity. And the third type of good titles we as editor recommend is that provide the main conclusion from the outset. Just be straightforward, so that everyone knows the expectation of this paper. Use a declarative format for your title. Example would be low dose of amino-modified nanoparticles induces cell cycle arrest. So there's a very good editorial published in the Chemistry of Materials. I think it was published by the EIC of that journal at that time. So here's the DOI link if you're interested, or you can search up this editorial in the Chemistry of Materials. I think it's a pretty highly cited, highly read editorial in that journal. And then And then after the title, the second important thing is create a very substantive abstract, but not too long, and a strong one that will attract people to read you, cite you. I think that's, as an author, you would like your paper to get cited a lot. And the abstract, aside from the title, will help you a lot on this. So the first thing to create a substantive good abstract is provide a concise summary of the work, and be clearly written, easy to understand, and avoid unnecessary embellishments, and do not supplement or evaluate conclusions. Do not cite references and tables and figures. Yeah, and I think nowadays you can do a very good abstract when you just put your entire paper to ChatGPT. I think, but you should always read it carefully, because there are hallucinations in ChatGPT and other generative AI. So, as a scientist, you should be careful. So I will not go to too much details, but I like to stress that common mistakes to write a bad abstract is that first thing is write it too long. Keep it short, just like the title. Keep it between 75 to 200 words, and I would say like a very healthy abstract, it's right around 150 words. That's most ideal. And wrong level of detail, often too much, and incomplete or inconsistent or missing keywords. Actually, yeah, again, I would like to emphasize, try to utilize the keyword in the journal, because that will help get your paper getting searched in the search engines like Google Scholar, so that more people will read your paper and possibly citing your paper. So some authors, they don't provide the keywords in the paper. You're actually wasting a very good opportunity to expose your paper to larger groups of authors in different communities. And talking about AI, use of AI, Elena just provided a very good example of good use, fair use of AI. But we see a lot more unfair and nefarious and sketchy use of AI in the papers that get submitted to ACS journals. So, like to mention a little bit about what's ACS policy, ACS stance on AI. So the first one is not an ACS official policy declaration, but this is a very good editorial written in ACS, published in ACS Nano, which is also actually written by a lot of the editor-in-chiefs, the leadership of the ACS journals, and it basically tells you what they think, what are the best practices when using AI to write your paper. And if you haven't already read it, I highly recommend you search up this paper in ACS Nano, which is a very big editorial. And the other thing is what are the official stances of the using of AI in ACS journals. So you can check it up here. There's a link here, researcher resources, and dash, or you can just search AI policy in ACS journals, and the first result will pop up. So in brief, the use for AI tool for text or image generation should be disclosed. We do not forbid you from using AI to help you write the paper. This is, I personally, not as ACS officially, I personally think it's a good thing that, especially for authors that are not native English speakers or writers, the generative AI is a very good tool for you to overcome the language barrier, so that everyone's communicating the good science, so that you don't spend too much time to refine your writing, so everyone can focus on the science, and the editors, not just the author. So I think that's good, but you have to use it fairly, and not to use the AI to generate data for you, as Elena said, which we have seen examples of. Of course, we don't have proof, but because it's extremely hard to prove that. But just try not to use it to generate data for you. But if it's just improve your English writing in the introduction, in the abstract, I think that's fine. But you have to be very careful, because there are hallucinations in AI. So it will very confidently tell you things that are not true. And and then there's a very, I think more like a simple way to put it, cover art graphics. Yes, you can use AI to generate cover graphics, and they could generate very beautiful cover art graphics for you, and that's allowed in ACS ACS journals. But TOC graphics, we do not allow that, because sometimes there are data involved in those TOC graphics, and we do not right now at least ACS do not want those to interfere with TOC graphics in the ACS journals. And improve English writing, yes, but please disclose that in the acknowledgement or other sections. Of course, it's not mandatory, but we do like, as a best practice, we do want authors to disclose what kind of AI you use in which part of your paper. Generate experimental data, big no, yeah. And then you can try to use the generative AI to check to generate reference list. They can do that pretty well, but be careful, because we already have, just in AMI alone, we have like 4 to 5 examples that, yeah, and yeah. Please be careful when you try to generate references. And yeah, I'll close my talk today here because of the time limit, but welcome any questions in the Q&A session. Thank you very much. Okay.
Sorry to stop you, because I really wanted to use this time to discuss with young researchers about this process. So I invite Daniel and Elena to here. So please come here. This is going to be like a very spontaneous discussion. I hope you have questions. As I said at the beginning, the American Chemical Society is not a private company making profit out of the scientific publication. It's a society, so it's really interested on this process. And as Chen may have shown you, this is basically a communication process, and as any human communication activity, it has challenges and problems, but it's crucial. It is crucial. So this peer review publication process is challenging and sometimes controversial, but is very important for our work. And we want to discuss with you guys any doubt that you have, especially the young researchers, about this process, anything that you want to ask to an editor. Do you have any question? I can start. All right, great, Thomas, thank you.
Probably the question is more for Elena and Daniel.
Yes, sure.
Because when you do active research and you do this during your spare time, whatever, it's a non-profit organization. What do you get out of this?
You need to turn on the please.
Okay. So
What do you get out?
What do you get out of this being an editor for ACS and spending all the time apart from the real research that you are doing? And it's like, yes.
Yeah, that's a good question.
I will start with,
from a salary.
Mind. So but we really spend a lot of time, and actually has impacted negatively my productivity, time with the group and all. I think it's really, at the beginning I didn't know what to expect, but it's really, I feel it's a contribution. It's like when you, for instance, review a paper, right? What do you get out of it? It's really very important. So I would say on my side, I view this contributing from outside in a creative way to our community. There is a new journal that wasn't there. There is creating a new forum for scientific discussion. I think this is very exciting. I think it's a dedication to science. It's another way that complements the research that you do, broader, if you will. And personally has been very exciting. I thought that this was more secretarial work, more routine. It's not. Actually, has been very creative, a new way to think about science and to engage scientists. So I don't know if I answer your question. It's a way to give in a way, but very selfishly for me has been really opening eyes to a different world of science that I was not aware. So very, very gratifying.
Daniel?
Well, yeah, I totally agree to what you said. Well, you get insights to new fields which somehow not really within your field of expertise. You get a bunch of papers which belong to your expertise, but which are still outside or somehow beyond the border of what you do in your daily routine. And well, you get first insights to new fields, to what are the coming trends. For instance, for me, for electronics, you need to read the papers, you get the information, you get some idea how other people think about their research, what's important for them, and of course also what David said, you get a salary for that. That's also somehow motivating. And yeah,
Doesn't hurt.
doesn't hurt. Well, to give you some figures, it's about 1 hour per day which I need to spend on that activity. So it's usually the first thing I do in the morning, because it's some kind, it's also some bureaucracy. So you have some kind of, or some couple of new papers coming in every day, 2 or 3 papers which you need to read. You need to read some review reports. There's also some nice feedback you get, which gives you an advantage when it comes to your own research, that you know how to interpret the reports provided by the reviewers, and also to address the concerns from the reviewers.
Yeah. Let me add something. It forces you to get out of your field, right? So how many papers do we publish in our own field? It's an incredible amount, no? So how many times do we read anything that is not related to our field? This really forces you to do it, and it's very enriching, because it helps you to see where things are going towards. No? Any other question? I have a question to break the ice. So Daniel, Elena, so what is the first thing you check when you have a new paper submitted to you? Like this thing that it makes you say or not?
Well, the very first thing is whether it was transferred in from any other journal. So that's also a message I can give you. If you submit it to an ACS journal and it turns out to be the wrong journal, for instance, because the scope of that journal is not the right one, it's not a big issue, because it will be forwarded to another ACS journal where it can be easily transferred. Also, in case that, well, review reports were quite critical, for instance, if you send it to a high impact journal like Nano Letters, ACS Nano, it might be forwarded to another ACS journal later on. So that's the immediate thing, but this is nothing which is within your control. For me, cover letter, abstract, conclusion, and figures. These are the 3 things which are most important. You need to be able to recognize the importance or the relevance of a manuscript based on the cover letter, the figures, and also the conclusion within the paper.
The first thing I do is I really look at the paper, and I try quickly to see the relevance to the scope of the journal, independently whether it's something that I personally like. So for instance, because maybe people see my name, they submit more fundamental of organic photochemistry, and I like those papers very much, but they're outside the scope. So really the paper, definitely the transfer, it's important, because it means that already there was a kind of a filter that directed towards your journal. Sometimes there are misfires though. And the cover letter, sometimes they're very long, and this is maybe something that you may find useful. But in the end, all I want to know is why they sent it to us and what's new. And it doesn't have to be a hyperbole that they discover new things. Really, what is the new thing that this paper communicates scientifically, and why was submitted to us, prompted, meaning the scope, right? Why it's a good fit for the people who read our journal. So it has to be very simple, these letters. They do not have to convince me in a way. They have just to communicate these two things. The figure is another thing very important. If the figures are very poor quality, colored, and one makes the decision a bit more problematic. if after this I still cannot figure it out, then I'm the first entry point. So actually I spend a lot of time, probably close to 2-3 hours a day, because there are other tasks associated with being then I direct it. So for instance, if I see meta materials, I send it to David, and he will decide whether it's relevant or not. So I'm the first entry point, but I have to rely on the others. I don't know if I elaborated too much.
Cool. Questions? Come on, you have doubts about the process? Yeah. Please, thank you.
Thank you so much for your talk. So I think not about ACS, but in general, publishing system is not perfect. So I want to ask you, what's your position, how to improve this the system? And I was wondering topics like, I don't know, introducing double-blind peer review, or what's your position about improving the open access in your journal, or the use of an online repository to drop your data, your raw data. So how this could improve the system, and what's your view in the journals that you actually handle?
Very good question.
For me?
I think it's
Okay,
more for you, because
First, to improve the publishing and peer review experience, we are updating our whole system to the new ACS Publishing Center. If you are submitting a journal recently to our ACS journal, you might see that. But I would just say it's a work in progress, and we'll keep getting feedback from authors, reviewers, on how to improve that. So you might see some problems working on this and that, but feel free to reach out to the ACS support service, and if not, you can just reach out to me, and I will forward that to the team. They're working diligently to make it a more modern and a more smooth experience for authors and peer reviewers in the system. And then the question about double-blind peer review, we are experimenting that actually in 2 of our ACS journals. I think it's ACS Central Science and one, I don't know if it's Journal of Physical Chemistry Letters. We've been experimenting that for like over a year at least, and we're still evaluating if how good that is compared to the more traditional one-side blinded peer review. And yeah, if if the experimental results very good, we might expand that to even more journals. And that's a very interesting experiment. And yeah, I could see there are some merits on doing that. And but I heard feedback, negative feedback about doing that too. But I'm not going to expand it here. But anyway, it's a very important experiment we're doing, and we might see more or less depending on the experiment results in our ACS journals. What is the third question? I kind of. Oh yeah, we do have a repository just like Archive, which is called Chem Archive. So it's not mandatory. Yeah, if you choose, if you want, you could. Yeah, and also ACS has a general policy on those archives and repositories. Is that yeah, we only approve certain, and it's a little bit different in different ACS journals. I can show you more details when we talk, but here I would just say that we do have a formal policy on open repositories. Yeah, thank you.
Do you want to add anything to this, or maybe we can get new questions? Okay.
I'm curious about your opinions, your different opinions, because you have different responsibilities regarding supplementary information.
Very good.
Well, an issue I see quite often with submissions or publications is that authors try to put in all the information in the main text, which made the papers pretty long. And for instance, if you have lots of characterization techniques for materials, supplementary information is a perfect place to keep it in. Nobody wants, or at least I don't want to read a paper with 10, 15 figures in the main text. That's far too long. My attention span is not so long. If you want to have these details, put it into the supplementary information. So in my view, supplementary information, it's not mandatory, but if you have extensive fabrication or characterization details, use that wisely to put it there instead of putting it in the main paper. You usually don't lose anything in the main text by removing that kind of information. Did that answer your question, or was it pointing in a different direction?
Do you have another opinion?
I don't have a fixed, well-made opinion yet, but I feel sometimes the amount of literature you have to read is unbearable because they give you the last detail, and I don't know if everything is necessary. When you read a letter, you feel very satisfied because they go to the point and they don't waste space and time and your time in details that sometimes I think the editor should have a say in that, in saying this is not necessary or this should be complemented. I don't know if you do this task.
Yes, actually I do that. So sometimes, for instance, the author, I see that often, the idea of adding too much to prove the point that you characterized everything, but it's diluting the message. So you don't get to the point because you have too much information. So in some cases, I handle papers myself, and I find extensive characterization like XPS, all the imaging. Those can go in the supporting information. So that can be moved and really make the manuscript and the message and the scientific novelty more concise. However, when I handle manuscripts, I view the supporting information as part of the intrinsic part of the manuscript. They have to be novel. You cannot put old synthesis, all characterization, things that have been digested and published again there. It has to be new. Otherwise, you just cite the paper where you published that first. And sometimes you feel bad because even with the synthesis, right, you had the students working for months. You would try to put all the procedures, the milliliters, but then you realize that actually you have to move it and put it in a place where it can be searched but doesn't dilute the message, but has to be new. And so I check, for instance, the qualities of the pictures and the content. I don't know if this is what you were really asking, or we are.
I think the answers, they matched exactly what you said before, but just in a more extensive way. So we fully agree to what you said. It should not be too long. Everything which is not needed to understand the main idea of a paper should be moved to the supporting information. So to keep it brief and to keep it understandable.
Questions?
Don't you feel that there is an increased load on the peer review process? I mean, like I've been discussing with colleagues, and we get more and more invitations. It seems that it's all like focused on the same individuals all the time, and so how we are going to solve this problem?
It's difficult to solve because the number of submission is just increasing. So not only for our journals, but for any journal. So the number of scientific publications are increasing. Not within Europe. I think Europe is staying pretty constant. But Asia, numbers of submission from China, India, they increase significantly, and somebody needs to peer review that. That's a big issue. It's nowadays becoming more and more challenging to find reviewers who are willing to do that job.
And both as authors as well, right? So in your editorial, let's say, duty, don't you find like really mixed quality reviews? I mean, like me as an author, I get peer review back, the referee reports back, and I get like some really good, constructive feedback, and some peer reviews that they say like, well, it's not enough, just put this random thing and then come back, and then you come back with the random thing, and they ask for more things, but not constructive way, right? So I feel like these two different sets of peer reviews.
So again, that's linked to in a way, to finding good reviewers. It's really probably the most difficult task to find the good, because yes, you can Google search, you find names, but you do not know the ethics. So in the end, you ask maybe the person that whom you trust, who is that will give, because the objective of the review is really to give scientific feedback that is constructive, not correct typos, right? So or this be negative about the author, probably, I think a potential solution, I was asking other editors from other publishing houses that actually how they do it, and is to get maybe involved younger researchers like postdocs, even potentially students, who are at a level where they can provide feedback, that maybe undergo a training on the reviewing process. For instance, the ethics of training, how to communicate without being offensive. I think that could be good, because they also learn. So it's important for them too, because they also, from this process, makes them better authors. And I don't quite know yet. I have some ideas potentially how to get the younger people involved. That would decrease the burden from the same usual suspects, and also give something to the younger people. But what you say, so far, everybody has the same problem.
Yeah, I know.
I can expand a little bit on what Elena said about educating new peer reviewers. So that's something I didn't have time to cover in my slides. So I recommend everyone, if you're interested in becoming a new generation of reviewers, PhDs and postdocs and young early career faculty, there's a very good, totally free online course made by ACS, which is called ACS Reviewer Lab. Let me see, where is it? Yeah, here, ACS Reviewer Lab. If you type in ACS Reviewer Lab on Google, that's going to be the first search result. And free online course launched in 2017. And I think there's a Spanish version of it. I'm not sure, but it's available in English and Chinese at least. And yeah, it's a very comprehensive training session on how to be a good peer reviewer, how to spot potential ethical issues, etc., etc. And after you finish this course, you will get a badge that's going to be visible to the editors like Elena, David, and Daniel, that shows that you finished this course, and they will be more likely to choose you as a reviewer in papers.
Actually, here in the audience, if some of the students or postdocs are interested in this, and then you will regret it, because I will ask you over and over again, but reach out to me, because frankly, it's really what determines the quality. Because I'm a filter, but sometimes I handle papers I know nothing about, because of, there was some, and you rely on the reviewers, and if the reviewers have these, 2-3 little things, it's bad for everybody. So if some of you is interested for optical or electronic, that would be very nice. What is your opinion on it? How to solve it? I mean, if anyone has ideas, help us, because
actually I'm not really like 100% positive, but I think like open peer review will help. Also, like the model where you just first let's say publish the paper and then you add the review later on. I think that will help as well. So kind of like Open Research Europe, right? So that you publish the the paper, and then the peer review happens afterwards, right? So and then you edit the versions, right? So I think those things might happen, might help a little bit to release the load, because first the thing is already published, so people can check it there, and there is no rush. There is no, 80 days turnaround time and all these things. So you can do it like carefully and quietly and take your time to do the review, and then you put the second version, the third version, whatever versions you need, right? So and people can check if like the reviewer is being constructive or not. I mean, as well. But I think it's not an ideal solution, because I see a lot of caveats there, especially if you're a young reviewer and a really well-established researcher as an author, right? So I see many caveats there. But okay.
And another caveat is you publish first, but sometimes the paper looks good, and then you get really a very good reviewer who found a fundamental flaw. So I think I think the filter should be first rather than later, to be honest, because then how do you backtrack?
Well, you have different versions, right? So like in the next version, you just solve that thing, or if it's really a fundamental flaw, I guess that you'll have to publish it as similar to a retraction, right? So you just say, okay, initially we published this thing, but we find out because of the reviewing process, this other thing. It's fair.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, it's not a perfect solution. I know.
Yeah.
Yeah. It takes a lot of time, but it's already the information is already published, so people can check. So it gets relaxed in that respect. It takes longer, yes. I don't know. I mean, Open Research Europe is operating with this method. It's fine-ish, not perfect.
We have a question here.
Yes. Thank you for the explanation of the reviewer bench. We will do it probably later to get more possibility to review some good papers. So my question is about following about Andres' question that so if you have the possibility to use some AI agent like some other journal already undertaking that to improve the performance of the reviewer and like you mentioned, the reviewer maybe do some irrelevant or non-constructive kind of review. Is the ACS considering this, developing this, or because like the authors can also give some credit to the reviewers if they get some feedback, or if there are some data analysis about after publishing, this is a good paper, this is some kind of reward for the reviewer or whatever. Is there any kind of this correlation, or
I'll quickly mention something, but then I give to Chemay because he knows all the policies. No, the reviews should not be AI.
So, yes, if you put a submitted paper into AI, that's against AI policy of ACS journals, because as a reviewer, you should honor the confidentiality agreement with ACS journals. So you're basically putting something that are not published should be confidential to everyone outside of editor and the publisher, basically to that AI company who will now have the data that you're basically just leaking that out. But this is something in progress, so it's confidential. I don't know the exact details, but we are trying to experiment on internal AI tools that we kept all the data inside ACS publications. For that, it should be safe, but but there's no timeline on how fast we can develop that capability. Yeah. But just keep, I would ask you to just.
So right now one cannot use AI for the reason, but also personally, I think there are, when you ask a colleague to examine the science of that paper. You're asking for the brain of that colleague, the knowledge, the background, to look at that. If one is so lazy to use AI, then there is no point. This is the most important contribution you can give, is to keep the quality. It's like when you, for instance, there is a promotion, right? We wouldn't use AI to examine a packet of a colleague. You have to use a variety of parameters and that rely on you, on your experience. So I think it's fundamentally wrong.
Any other question? If not, yes.
Thank you for the session. I would like to ask you about a new journal that is called Nanomedicine, and could you comment anything about it?
Are you talking about the change in leadership in that journal?
No. It's a new one, yeah, that maybe is interfering with bio.
That's not our family of journals, but I think it's closely related to ACS Nano. Yes, it's because we're getting so much more submissions on the nanomedicine aspect of research in that community. We think it's very good, and then we're not accepting all those papers. Some of them very good quality, so we think it was a good idea for ACS publication to launch another journal specifically for that sub area, that we get good transfers from ACS Nano and to that. Do you have any other interest points on that journal?
No. I mean that probably there is an they interfere with the nano material with your family. I mean,
not that much actually, because in ACS Applied Nanomaterials we actually don't get that much research on nanomedicine or yeah.
Okay.
But we do have a lot of like more general ACS like a bio-related applications for nanomaterials. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Not specifically nanomedicine. Yeah.
Here we have another question.
Thank you very much for bringing this ACS field journals and your point and view on this. Just to add to the question that Andres made, that I think is very relevant, and most of us also had that question in our minds. Maybe it's the time to start thinking about reviewers being a real job, right? Because you can spend, as a scientist, I could spend my entire week just revising papers. So maybe some of the editorials, maybe ACS is not the one because it's non-profit, but those that are profit editorials, maybe they could spend some money to really put the money that it requires, that task that can take so much money, to do in a professional way. Because as Andres is saying, now the problem that we have is that because you don't find the right or the enough reviewers, you keep asking younger and younger people, but you need preparation for that too. So that's the reason why some of the reviews are super great, because you're spending the time and you have the knowledge to do that, but others, they try to do the best, or they just don't want to spend too much money, but they don't want to say, no, I will not review that. I do the revision, but I do poorly, what is bad for science. And besides that, my question, sorry about that, that's just my thought. My question is about this global trend in all the editorials about increasing the number of journals. You were commenting on that, right? Plus 90 in ACS. Is this a good trend? Or are we becoming crazy about all the journals that we have? Because for me, it's becoming more and more difficult to find a journal to publish my data. I know the traditional ones, but then I get lost with the new ones. So sometimes I find a paper in a journal that I don't even know, but it's a good one. So I would like to know your thoughts on this. Thank you.
Is that specifically for me, the question?
Yeah, maybe, yes.
Okay.
Yes, yeah, actually, this was a question for me, like, what is the point of having this more and more journals?
The one thing is that science becoming more specialized. That's why more and more specialized journals appear. And ACS is actually responding to the community need for more journals, where we're not just keep launching new journals to make more money. That's something I want to clarify. The other thing is that, yeah, we do understand the pain point of authors of choosing journals, and I think Elena might not like this, but we are internally developing AI-related tools that can help authors to choose the right journal within ACS. Yeah, so that you don't need to worry too much about which journals to publish, but you can just focus on the science and get it published, and that's it. And we do also, there's a very, I wouldn't say perfect, but it's a relative good transfer system within ACS journals. So yeah, whichever journal you start, if it's not within the scope, but if it's still a scientifically good quality paper, we will ideally, we're still improving that tool, but ideally in the future, like you don't care which journal you start from, but it will end up in the right journal that's get published. Hopefully that's the ideal case in the future.
But it's also a fundamental thing, no? So we are living in an economical system that has only a possibility to grow and grow and grow. Science is extremely capitalist. So if you don't have any question, thank you all for coming. We hope that this has been useful for you, and thank you for the editors for joining us today. Thank you.
Thank you.